Welcome to Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salcido, and tonight I am continuing my series on haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And there are many ways to support the show. You can always share the show with others. You can rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can also check out the Patreon page and sign up for all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. And you can check out the merchandise store, which has newer items recently added to it, and buy some shirts and/or other items there, coffee mugs, aprons, and other things. So support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. And also, please check out links to friends of the show in every episode description. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who, whenever she is able to make it on Saturdays, is the co-host of this show, as well as also Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows, as well as my own, 24/7 online for free. So we are still in Idaho as far as this series goes. And a couple things I always like to point out when I do these shows. Please, if you're interested in going to one of these locations I talk about, check out check them out online. You have to do your own research to make sure that it is still possible to visit them in some cases. Things change, owners change over time, and some places may not always be open to the public. So, and so I always recommend checking that out, making sure it's okay to go, and finding out when to go. And because I never recommend trespassing for any reason. Also, again, this is not a comprehensive series on all the places in every state that are said to be haunted to have paranormal activity, because I don't think such a thing is really possible. It's only possible to a degree, and so I'm just going over a handful of places, 5 to 10 locations in each state in the U.S., and letting it go at that. So, and I think it's a good enough sort of a sample size just to show that there's activity almost everywhere. It seems of unknown things happening, and uh, so it's still fun to do this, even though I'm not being too uh, specific about how many places in each state and all that. So, and hopefully you all enjoy it as well. So let me get to the document here. So how this works is I do a search on the location, and I get a summary about the location, and then I include links to sources in the episode description for as a starting point for you all to go and do your own research as well, and find out if I'm wrong about anything. Not that you have to let me know, but uh, I'm always open to, and I'm sure there's many cases where I am wrong about these things. So, and also you can find pictures of the locations, which I cannot uh, share on the show because it's an audio only show. So anyway, we are on uh, first location for the night here. We are on the Egyptian Theater in Boise, Idaho. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. So here we go with the summary here. The Egyptian Theater is both a historical and paranormal landmark, celebrated for its unique architecture and haunted reputation. Historical overview. The theater opened on April 19th, 1927, inspired by global fascination with ancient Egypt after the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. Probably said that wrong. I apologize. Designed by Frederick C. Hummel of the firm Tor- Tortolate, not sure, and Hummel. Again, I will mispronounce things, and I apologize. It's a prime example of Egyptian revival architecture, featuring elaborate Egyptian motifs such as lotus pillars, hieroglyphs, and winged scarabs. Over its lifetime, it was renamed several times. Originally the Egyptian, then the Fox in the 1930s, the Era in the 40s through the 70s, and back to the Egyptian in 1979. The theater narrowly escaped demolition in the late 1970s and underwent a full restoration in 1999, preserving its ornate style and historical character. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places and continues to serve as a major performance and film venue. Hauntings and paranormal reports. The most well-known ghost is, in quotation marks, Joe, a former projectionist who worked at the theater for decades and reportedly died of a heart attack in the theater, in the projection booth actually, in the 1950s. Since Joe's death, staff and visitors have reported unexplained laughter and strange aromas throughout the building, sensations of being touched by invisible hands, especially in the projection booth and upper balcony, lights turning on and off, doors opening and closing, and sudden temperature changes. During a 2016 live performance, pieces of the ceiling inexplicably fell to the stage, nearly missing performers, and some attributed the disturbance to Joe's mischievous spirit. That's quite the situation. Either that's true or, I don't know, issues with the ceiling. That's not great. But anyway, another ghost reported is a woman in late 1920s attire, believed to have been associated with the theater's management staff. She is seen wandering blissfully, sometimes causing strange odors and gentle touches. The theater occasionally hosts paranormal investigations and ghost tours, cementing its reputation as one of Boise's most haunted sites. Uh, Architecture and atmosphere. The interior remains richly decorated with authentic Egyptian symbols and motifs, including an ornate proscenium arch and painted details reflecting ancient Egypt. Today, the theater retains its atmosphere of historic grandeur and the reputation for the mysterious, unexplained happenings. So that's again another theater. It's always fascinating when we find these accounts because there's just so many that have similar cases of paranormal activity in them. So moving on to the next location here, we are on, and again I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, the Idenha Hotel in Boise again. So this is a landmark known for its grand architecture, significant historical events, and numerous ghost stories. Historical overview. The hotel was completed in 1901 and designed by architect W. S. Campbell in the French chateau style, featuring 6 stories, red brick. Let me see here. Yeah, a red brick construction, round turrets, a mansard roof, and a sandstone foundation. At the time, its $125,000 cost made it the most expensive building ever constructed in Boise, and it held the distinction of being the tallest in the state, as well as the first building in Boise to have an elevator. Over the decades, the hotel hosted many prominent figures, including Presidents Theodore Roosevelt and William Howard Taft, and was the site of lavish social events and balls uh, attended by Boise's elite. The Idaho was also linked to several dramatic historical events, including the infamous 1907 trial of the century involving labor leader Big Bill Haywood, an assassination, if I can talk, an assassination attempt against Governor Frank Stonenberg, and speeches by Senator William E. Borah. By the 1970s, the hotel was converted into apartments. Today, the building houses residences and businesses, including restaurants and bars, while much of the historic decor remains intact. So this place doesn't seem to be a hotel anymore, but it's for residences, but also other businesses. That's fascinating because hotels so often get to be known as centers for paranormal activity. So I wonder how much else goes on there that doesn't get reported because it's in individual residences or businesses. Hauntings and paranormal reports. I guess we'll get into a little bit of that now. The Idaho Hotel is widely regarded as one of Boise's most haunted locations. The most persistent ghost story involves a woman allegedly murdered by her husband in the early 1920s on the second floor. Her restless spirit is said to roam the hallways, disturbing guests, especially at night. Other reported phenomena include unexplained cold spots, electrical disturbances, and doors opening or closing by themselves. Apparitions, shadowy figures, and ghostly laughter in the old hotel corridors and rooms. Guests and residents, I guess maybe it still is a hotel, I'm not sure on that. Guests and residents have recounted paranormal experiences, particularly on the upper floors and in the basement, where some claim the energy feels especially strong. The historic bar and basement areas are frequent sites of reports of unsettling sensations and sightings, adding to the building's haunted reputation. And that's where that one ends. There is something about basements and attics. They pop up so often in reports of activity, to the point where they're even, I think, featured now in video games in some cases as uh, being places where, of course, in video games, a lot of the monsters or ghosts or whatever in the game are going to get the main character. But I've heard it suggested on different shows over the years that in some cases, if there is a consciousness or soul or spirit in a location, they will pick or they will choose the basements or the attics to hide in, or not necessarily hide, but stay in to stay away from the people that might be the living people that might be in a location for any length of time. So there's something to that, and it makes sense in a way. Um, so anyway, just a side note there on that. Let's get to this next location here, uh, because might as well get through as many of these as we can. So, but yeah, hotels and especially hotels that are turned into other things later on. There was one. There's a few, a couple recently where they were hotels and then they briefly turned into hospitals for a while, and then turned back into hotels. And I can only imagine again the possibilities of paranormal activity in these locations that are used for these kinds of things, where tons of people stay and come and go, in both situations, and of course different situations, but still you have all that energy coming, and people coming and going, and who knows how much of that energy just stays. So this next one is the brig at Farragut State Park in Atoll, I'm not sure, Athol. So the brig at Farragut State Park is a historic former military jail and museum that's rumored to be one of the most haunted locations in the state history. Built in 1942 as part of the Farragut Naval Training Station, the brig was a confinement facility for unruly naval recruits during World War II. The training station operated from 1942 to 1946 and was the world's second largest at its peak, training nearly 300,000 sailors. That's quite a bit. It also housed German POWs, prisoners of war, in separate quarters near the park entrance. After the war, it served as Farragut College, 1946 to 1949, before uh, being transferred to the state and opened as a state park in 1965. Today, the brig serves as a museum and is one of only a few original structures remaining from the site's military era. Hauntings and paranormal activity. Numerous reports center around a full body apparition, believed by some to be a German soldier who died in custody. Witnesses have seen a figure in military or prisoner attire inside the brig, and unexplained noises, flashes of light, and objects moving on their own have been described. It's always weird to me, the flashes of light thing, because it's not. Is it the same? Is that an orb appearing and vanishing? I don't think always. In some cases, it seems to be. I mean, when you hear about a flash of light, it can be enough to fill a whole room. In some cases, it's really odd. I just wonder what is behind that. How does that happen? The brig is believed to have been the site of at least one homicide and one um, other death in during World War II, adding to its haunted reputation. Park visitors and staff have reported apparitions of a bald man in prisoner's garb, sometimes seen near the building, heavy objects relocating by themselves, unexplained noises and lights flickering, orbs, ghostly changing of clanging of cell doors, and sudden cold spots. Some state employees who worked in the brig describe seeing the apparition, and visitors have reported being watched or followed while inside. The park also features unsettling reports uh, from Memorial Park, including claims that a sailor statue's head turned and followed people with its gaze, contributing to an eerie ambiance. That's always fascinating when you hear about that, the whole statue moving thing, because I do wonder about how that works. Are in some cases statues made of multiple parts that can then be manipulated by energy, by consciousness, to make it appear that they're physically looking at someone when they're just moving parts around, especially like a head or something like that. If not, then I do think and I do believe, based on experience, that ghosts or spirits, again, whatever you want to call them, can directly sort of interface or connect with the the minds of people, and cause things to appear that aren't really there as they appear to be. Again, so the idea with that would be the statue is not physically moving, but somehow someone there is affecting, basically, someone's mind so that the person or the people think that they see the the head of the statue moving. And I say that from, again, personal experience in a way, um, because of a sighting, my first sighting I had, as far as I know, when I was a kid. And we only have a few minutes left here, so I think I'll just go over this concept here, and we'll end it with this episode and talk a little more about this concept. Um, because I think it's an important concept for an explanation for some paranormal events, where again it's some other consciousness having an effect on our own. Um, and I've told this story many times before, and I'll probably tell it many times again throughout the course of the podcast. When I was around, I think around 13 or 14, I believe, around that age, I went to visit my cousin in this house that him and his family had just moved into. My aunt and uncle and their three kids, which are my cousins, and then their son. They have two daughters and a son, and I would go and visit the son a lot. We were really close, and so they had just moved into this house, and I was going there for the first time, and my cousin decided to camp out. We would camp out in the basement on this couch bed, and so we did that, and it was fine for quite a while that night. And we were just up talking and everything, and we happened to look into the back corner of the basement. Now there were lights in the basement, but only they all had the string you had to pull to turn one on or off. So we only had lights on above us and by the stairway. So anyway, at one point in the back, we were looking in that direction, and there were clotheslines hung up along parts of the near the ceiling with sheets hanging down from them, basically the family's laundry. And above one of the sheets, we could both see the head of an elderly I can't talk older woman, and the thing is, I could see her face in perfect detail, even though I'm legally blind and extremely nearsighted. There's no way I should have seen anything other than a blur across the room at the distance that it was, which I don't even know how far it was because again I'm not good with distances. And so I didn't know what was going on a lot of levels because there were also no feet and nothing for anyone to stand on beneath the sheet, the bottom of the sheet. So I've gone into that story in great detail about how everything worked out many times before. So if you want to listen back to previous episodes, you can find that. Just the point is, I do think that there are times when we can have connections and interactions and be affected by other consciousness. That's my chair creaking. But anyway, in certain situations, and which makes it appear that things are um, anomalous when maybe they are not quite so, or they are, but it's just in a different way. Anyway, thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you all next time on Salsidoparanormal. Take care.